Chacham Melech ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im. And we are doing a live tiyul, a live hike, a format that I'd like to do more and more of, a kind of walk and talk, a walk and chat. So we're at the ancient city of Bethsaida, which is a very, very interesting history. And we're going to talk a bit about that history. We're also going to continue on the topic of prayer from the heart. And we're going to be answering the question, do we need to say a prayer after every meal? We'll talk about that. But let's first learn a bit about this very incredible place, Bethsaida. It's important in Tanakhic history, in Christian history. It was a Roman city, and it's mentioned in the Talmud. So let's talk about these four periods. I'm just going to read to make it easier. So Bethsaida was a major city of the biblical kingdom of Geshur, the homeland of King David's wife Ma'akah, and a refuge for their son Avshalom when he ran away after rebelling against David. During this period, the Sea of Galilee covered the plain below, the mound, the Tel. We'll talk about Tel in just a bit. The city was surrounded by a thick wall, and at the east, a massive gate was found, which led to a paved square in front of a huge palace. Let's make sure my finger's not covering the camera. It stinks when that happens. No, it's not. I'll hold it a bit more like this. Okay. Destroyed in the Assyrian conquest of the kingdom of Israel in 732 BCE. That's when the northern kingdom was conquered by Assyria. Bethsaida was rebuilt and inhabited through the 3rd century CE. Now let's get to the Christian history. I should point out, as I always like to whenever I speak about Christianity, I'm not a Christian or Messianic in any way, shape, or form. I do not accept Jesus not as God, not as Son of God, not as past Messiah, future Messiah, present Messiah, or any other Messiah. However, I do find the New Testament to be an interesting, fascinating set of books, fascinating document. I love the stories and the legends in there that his disciples, his followers tell about him. Kind of reminds me of the stories that the Chabadniks tell about the Rebbe. And well, we won't go there. And I do find him to be a fascinating historical figure. I don't hate the guy as most people in standard rabbinical Judaism might. I find him to be a fascinating historical figure, although mostly in retrospect, because I don't think he was very important at the time that he lived, but by whatever twist of fate, he became important later on. But I very much connect, for obvious reasons, to the idea of a person who is, independent thinker, shall we say, fighting against the system, going around Israel, preaching what he has to say, saying what he has to say at great risk to himself. And I like his message I like his anti-Pharisaic message. In fact, I quote it all the time when I'm arguing against Pharisees, against rabbinites, and I like his anti-legalistic, more Tanakhic take on the Torah and on the Tanakh. So as an historical figure, and looking at his messages, if we can assume they're recorded accurately, at least they're somewhat accurate, I suppose. I actually connect with him as just plainly as an historical figure, as a human being who lived, had an interesting life, had a mission in his own mind, had something to say and went out and said it and paid the price for it. Obviously, for obvious reasons, I very much connect with that. So, but that being said, once again, I am not a Christian or Messianic in any way, shape, or form. I don't accept him. I don't believe he's anything more than just an interesting historical figure, or a figure that became important after his death. Okay, I should clarify that. Became an important historical figure after his death. No, I don't believe in the resurrection or any of that stuff. Okay, I mean his resurrection. Okay, at that time. Or in the future. I mean, he will probably, I forget it. You guys get the idea. I'm not a Christian, okay? All right, so birthplace of the apostles. According to the New Testament, the apostles of Peter, Andrew, and Philip were from Bethsaida. 4th century CE sources maintain that the apostles James and John, the sons of Zebedee, also lived there. It was Bethsaida that the miracle of the loaves and fishes and the healing of a blind man are said to have been performed by Jesus. So we have the multiplication of loaves and fishes. And from the town, Jesus was seen walking on the water of the Sea of Galilee. So this is where Jesus walked on water. Yes, it is. I mean, you get the idea. I don't really believe he walked on water. Ultimately, Jesus condemned Bethsaida because its citizens refused to repent. And we have that quote right here. So let's start with this one. Well, let's start with that one. Woe to you, Chorazin, woe to you, Bethsaida, for if the mighty works done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. What mighty works is Jesus talking about there? He's talking about his own mighty works. In other words, these things that are mentioned here, the multiplication of loaves and fishes, the walking on the water, the healing, etc. So he's saying that all of the people here in Bethsaida saw that with their own eyes, and yet they didn't repent. And if these foreign cities, these Canaanite or then Phoenician cities would have seen the same things, they, even though they were non-Israelite, would have repented. And here we have in Luke chapter 9, verse 10, and he took the apostles and withdrew apart to a city called Bethsaida. When the crowds learned, they followed him, and he welcomed them, cured those who need of healing. Okay. Then the next stage is it was a Greco-Roman city. So in 30 CE, Herod's son, Herod the Great son, Philip, made Bethsaida a polis. That's an official Greek city. He renamed it Julius in honor of Livia Julia, the wife of the Roman Emperor Augustus and mother of Emperor Tiberius. So Tiberius was Augustus's nephew. Remains unearthed from this period include simple dwellings and what might have been a temple dedicated to the Roman imperial cult of Livia Julia. Here we have an example of a simple dwelling. So this is maybe this is not so simple because it's the winemaker's house. From the Hellenistic period, 2nd century BCE to 1st century CE. Fisherman's house from that same period. The city wall is depicted from Iron Age 2, 1000 to 732 BCE. And finally, in the Talmudic period, in the Byzantine period, the rabbis of the Talmud noted that Bethsaida was a border town of the land of Israel where scholars lived. Its bounty was well known. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, for example, saw 300 different species of fish there, and Emperor Hadrian feasted on partridges in a pear tree that were captured in the area. So we have that quote from the Talmud Yerushalmi right here. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, I'll read the whole thing. Ma'aseh she'alachti letzaidan, והביאו לפניי יותר מ300 מיני דגים בתמחוי אחד. So one day, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, one day I was walking in Bethsaida and Sidon, and they brought before me more than 300 different types of fish in one batch. So I don't know how many different types of edible fish are there now. In the Kinneret, hopefully as many, probably more, because they probably brought some invasive species from elsewhere. Okay, and then this is from Shmuel Bet, from 2 Samuel. And this is with Avshalom. Yomer Avshalom el Hamelech. Ki neder nadar avdecha b'shavti b'gishur b'aram lemor im yashiv yashiveni Yahweh Yerushalayim ve'avadeti et Yahweh. So Avshalom said to the king, I have taken a vow, I've sworn a swear, your servant has sworn a swear when I returned to, or when I was dwelling in Geshur, and Bethsaida again was in the kingdom of Geshur, which was a non-Israelite, an Aramean kingdom, but in Aram, to say, if only Yahweh would bring me back, would return me, restore me to Jerusalem, then I will worship Yahweh. Okay? So here we have history, important history from 4 major periods. Let's begin our Tiyul, let's begin our hike towards the Atikot, towards the ancient ruins of Bethsaida. And when I get a chance, I'll sit under a tree somewhere and I'll take out Deuteronomy chapter 8, and we're going to talk about the Tanakh lesson that we're going to talk about today is, do we have to say a prayer after every meal? After all, the Torah does say in Deuteronomy 8, verse 10, I believe it is, V'yachata v'savata uverachta et Yahweh Elohecha ala aretz atova asher natan lach, and you shall eat, and you shall be satisfied, and you shall bless Yahweh your God for the good land that he has given you. What does that mean? This will tie squarely into the past couple of videos, series if you want to call it, on prayer from the heart. And we'll see, does that really mean that after every meal you have to, is the Torah telling us that after every meal you eat, you have to sit down or you have to focus and say a prayer? I won't give the answer away. Okay, ancient road. This is the ancient road leading to the city gate. The road was paved during the 10th century BCE and was in use until the 3rd century CE. It was paved on a series of terraces seen in the slope. Farther ahead, the road was paved by cobblestones. Okay, so we're heading to Tel Bethsaida. A tel is, it's often translated as a mound, just as Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is mentioned in the Tanakh. There's a prediction there that it's going to be a high-tech hub. No, I'm just joking. It's actually, it's in the book of Ezekiel, and it's not mentioned at all. It's not, Tel Aviv in the Tanakh in the book of Ezekiel is not in Israel at all. It's in Babylon. Ezekiel has a vision there. Okay, so let's see. Over there in the distance, that's the Golan Heights. So what is a tel? So a tel is, it's usually translated as a mound, but it's more complicated than that. When you see an ancient city in this area, I guess around the world, when you see an ancient city in this area, in the Middle East and the Near East, and by the way, if I may sidetrack, so we had a discussion at a Shabbat table last week. What is the difference between the Middle East and the Near East? So there are 4 terms. There is Mesopotamia, the Fertile Crescent, also known as the Levant, the Middle East, and the Near East. In this day and age, let's start from the smallest one. The smallest one is Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia literally means in between. Meso, like, I don't know, mesosphere means the middle atmosphere. Am I going the right way? Wait a second here. Yes, I must be going the right way. So Mesopotamia means in the middle of the 2 rivers. Which 2 rivers are we talking about? Well, there are only 2 huge rivers, big rivers, important rivers in ancient times, and that was the Tigris and the Euphrates, the Hiddekel and the Prat. So Mesopotamia means the land in between the Euphrates and the Tigris, basically modern day Iraq, Kuwait, I believe, stretching up into southern Turkey, where both the source of both the Efrat, the Euphrates, and the Tigris meet. So that is what Mesopotamia means. Okay, outer city wall. Wow, unbelievable. I'm not sure which period this is from, but this is the outer wall of the city. Maybe we'll get some more information there. Okay, so after Mesopotamia, then the next larger area is the Fertile Crescent or the Levant. So why is it called the Fertile Crescent? It forms a kind of crescent shape. It basically means the coasts of Israel, Lebanon, up until around southern Turkey again, where it meets the sources of the Tigris and the Euphrates, and then back down along the Tigris and the Euphrates. If I had a picture, it would be worth 1,000 words. But okay, so so basically Mesopotamia is one part of the Fertile Crescent. It's the part between the Tigris and the Euphrates. Then we have the Middle East. The Middle East basically means all of the area covered by you know what? I'll do this another time when I have a map. Anyway, the Middle East is all of the area that includes the Fertile Crescent, which also, so the middle, okay. Mesopotamia is included in the Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent, or the Levant, and Levant comes from ultimately from the Hebrew word Livana, which means the moon. So the crescent moon, so Fertile Crescent. The Levant, or the Fertile Crescent, is included in the Middle East, and the Middle East is included in the Near East. The Middle East includes the areas around the Mediterranean, and sometimes now it stretches farther east. And the Near East includes the Middle East, plus traditionally also includes other parts of the Ottoman Empire, such as the Balkans, Albania, etc. Anyway, so Mesopotamia is part of the Levant / Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent is part of the Middle East, and the Middle East is part of the Near East. Although in this day and age, in colloquial as well as scholarly literature, Middle East and Near East are usually used interchangeably. Anyway, okay, I'll show a map sometime. This is the Kikayon tree, or at least in modern Hebrew we call it the Kikayon. The Kikayon tree, I forgot how they translate it into English, is the tree that's mentioned in the book of Jonah, that Jonah sits under when he is reluctant to go into Nineveh, and it dies overnight. A worm comes and destroys it, and it dies overnight. He was using it as shade, and he's very upset about the Kikayon tree. And then Yahweh responds, you're upset about a Kikayon tree, or Kikayon plant, which grew up and died in one day, and yet you're not upset about the people of the great city of Nineveh, which has, I think it was mentioned, 120,000 inhabitants. The ancient city of Nineveh has been found and excavated. It's actually in Mosul, Iraq. You can visit it if you want to go to Mosul, Iraq. And so the tree that Jonah sits under as he sits and dries up in the sun outside of Nineveh is the Kikayon tree. Well, they call this the Kikayon. I don't know if it's the same tree or if it's just what they call it in modern Hebrew. There are experts on that, academic experts who deal with the names of species in the Tanakh and or the names of plants and animals in the Tanakh and what the actual species they represent might have been. So I don't know. Okay, let's see what we have here. The outer city gate was part of the heavy fortification of the protected city and included an inner city gate and 4 solid towers. Between the 2 gates was a spacious paved courtyard. The city gate of Bethsaida is the largest and best preserved city gate from the biblical period, 8th to 10th century BCE. Right, I remember actually reading that it's the largest city gate from the biblical period. So this is from the biblical period. This city gate, according to this sign here, is from the 10th to 8th century BCE. Wow. Let's touch the biblical city gate. Or actually, in the time of David, it belonged to Geshur, to the kingdom of Geshur, right? Okay. The courtyard. This is the heart of the ancient town. Here, the public activities of the city took place. It was a center of commercial, juridical, and religious life. Now, David was sitting between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof of the gate by the wall. That's not speaking about the gates of Bethsaida. So this is a city gate. And this is very fascinating. So this gate has chambers. So this is the entrance to the city. Wow, I'm flabbergasted, actually. And it has chambers. As you can see, 2 chambers on each side, or is it 3? Let's go a little bit further. So these were kind of like rooms, storage rooms maybe, or yeah, so 2. Now I have to remember back to my biblical archaeology. I don't want to say something wrong, so I'll just remember the best I can. So I think if it has 3 chambers, here we have 1 and 2 on each side, 1 and 2 on each side. I think if it is 3, then it's called the Solomonic Gate, if I remember correctly. And it was typical of gates that were built in the Solomonic period. If it is 2 chambers, I can't remember. I don't want to say something wrong, so I'm just going to shut up. I read it recently, but I forgot. It's not in my head. Okay, let's see. The inner city gate includes 4 chambers, 2 on each side. In this chamber, vessels for the offerings at the high places were kept. High places are the Bamot. That's where the pagans worshipped their false gods. The other 3 chambers served as granaries. The city gate was destroyed by the Assyrian king Tiglath-Pileser III in 732 BCE. Okay, so we're now walking into the city of Bethsaida through the biblical period gate. Sacrificial high place. Wow. The inhabitants of Geshur were Arameans, and the high places and ritual objects reflect their religion. On the sacrificial high place were found fragments of basins, horned altars. Interesting, because our altar is horned. Both when I say our, I mean the Israelite altar in Jerusalem, that ultimately was in Jerusalem, is horned. Both the altar of sacrifice and the incense altar. It's described in great detail in the book of Exodus. On the sacrificial high places were found fragments of basins, horned altars, and an incised stone depicting a crouching bull, which may have represented the Baal god. I'm not sure. In the pit near the high place were bones from sacrificial animals of types that comply with Leviticus 11. In other words, kosher animals. So I'm not sure what period that was from. It says they were Arameans. So I guess this statement or that sign is implying that the Arameans had a sense of kosher and non-kosher. Whoa. Okay, what you can see in the distance is the Sea of Galilee. The beautiful Sea of Galilee. And I should just bring a little current events into this. So I almost didn't expect to be here today. We were told last night, I'm now living in the Golan Heights, and we were told last night to stay near the bomb shelters because after what happened where, just by complete coincidence, a bunch of beepers and walkie-talkies exploded in the hands of Hezbollah operatives. Now, there's absolutely no proof that was the Mossad. I personally think it was just a coincidence. These things do happen. Wink, wink. At any rate, they were expecting massive retaliation by Hezbollah last night, and they told us all in this area to stay near bomb shelters, not to go up, not to walk around. But nothing happened, or nothing big happened, and they lifted the restrictions this morning. So here we are. Okay, so we just walked through the city gates of Bethsaida from the Aramean period, 10th to 8th century BCE. Let's continue on. So this would be then part of, let's see, if this is the gate and we're already in the city, so this wouldn't be part of the city wall. So these are inner walls. Hold on, wait a second. I see Jesus is there. He's walking on water. Jesus, be careful. You're going to drown. A little World Alliance of Qara'im humor. R. Okay, so. Yes, I know I shouldn't make fun of pagan religions. Sorry. Sorry to all my Christian friends. Like, I know Marianne is going to watch this and she's going to be really pissed off at me. Oh well. She won't talk to me for like a day or two and then she'll start talking to me again. That's what always happens. Okay. Let's see what we have here. So there we have even a better view of the Lake Kinneret, of the Kinneret Lake. See, I thought a great tourist trap for Christians would be, all right, if anyone wants to take my idea, you have to pay me 20%, okay? You put like some plastic or like a plastic, hard plastic kind of not bridge, but extension that goes out into the Sea of Galilee, and you charge the Christians some ridiculous amount of money, like, I don't know, like, $200, and they get to walk out into the Sea of Galilee on this plastic as if they're walking on water. What do you guys think? If anyone wants to start that business with me, let me know. Okay. I'm sorry. I really don't mean to be making fun of my Christian friends, because a lot of Christians actually do like our content. But, just like I make fun of the rabbis, hey, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the Christian. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the Christian. Okay. Hippos. Let's see what we got here. The man went off and made known throughout the Decapolis what Jesus had done. From Decapolis means the 10 sister cities. These were 10 major cities in the Roman times. So what is the purpose of this? Susita. I think these are the different cities. Okay, this is the Decapolis. Hippos or Susita. Kursi. No, this is not a city. I guess these are just different quotes. Tiberius. Oh, I see. I got it. It's pointing out to the different cities. Okay, hold on a second. Let's start over. All right, we'll start over here. I won't go through all 10. I'm going to use that from now on. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the Christian. Okay, Hippos. And there's a quote also from the Talmud Yerushalmi. So, then they arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. So Kursi, I guess it's out in that direction. Sea of Galilee. Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee when he saw Simon and his brother Andrew at work with casting nets in the lake, for they were fishermen. And he says, do you want to fish? Do you want to become fishermen of fish or fishermen of men? And they drop their nets and follow him, right? Again, maybe this would be a good time to point out, I am not a Christian or Messianic in any way, shape, or form, but I do find New Testament as a document and Christian history to be fascinating. So there you go. Tiberius, boats from Tiberius, however, came near the place where they ate the bread after the Lord had given thanks, and so on and so forth. We don't have to go through all of them. Magdala, Capernaum, which I actually visited in 2019. Mount of Beatitude, that was the famous Sermon on the Mount was given there. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Chorazin, another one of the cities that we saw earlier that Jesus cursed in the New Testament, or as is reported in the New Testament. Woe to you, Chorazin, Matthew 11:21. So is this 10, 1, 2, 3, 4? No, it's not 10. Anyway, okay, let's sit here and let me take out the Tanakh and let's talk about, and again, you can see the Sea of Galilee in the distance. Now, I am pre-announcing that we are officially starting, or unofficially at this point, starting our first World Alliance of Qara'im community in Katzrin, which is about a 20-minute drive from here in the Golan Heights. It is an absolutely beautiful and perfect place to start a community for obvious reasons, as you can see here. All right, let me drink water before Jesus has to perform a miracle on me and revive me from the dead. Hold on a second here. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the Christian. I don't know. I like that. Okay, hold on a second. Let me drink. Try to drink and hold up the camera at the same time. Might be an interesting feat. Come here, water. All right, I'll just leave the bottle out here. Okay, so the topic we want to talk about today is a continuation of the topic of prayer from the heart. Let me switch the camera around and say hi at least. A continuation of the topic of prayer from the heart. And I think what I need to do, let me just figure this out for a second. I think I'm gonna have to put the camera down, or I really need to get a tripod or something. Okay, I can unplug this. I will try my best to do it this way. Okay, so hold on a second. Let me bring up. Let me bring up Deuteronomy chapter 10. And I want to point out a number of interesting things here. Deuteronomy. Chapter 10. Come on. There we go. Just find the verse. I'm sorry, not chapter 10, chapter 8. Okay, so let's start in we're going to start in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 6. Maybe I'll switch around here. We're going to start in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 6. And we see "Vishamarta et miswot Yahweh Elohecha lalechet b'dirachao u li'ir'ah oto." You know, let me switch the camera. I'll leave the camera here. Okay. Keep the commandments of Yahweh your God, to go in his ways and to fear him. Ki Yahweh, verse 7. Ki Yahweh Elohecha miviacha el eretz tova eretz dahale mayim ay anoth u tehomoth yosim ba'bik'ah ubahar. Because Yahweh your God is bringing you to a good land, a land of watercourses, ayanoth, underground springs, uteomot, and deep water, maybe deep underground springs. No, it's ayanoth, uteomot, so springs and wells, maybe, or deep water springs. Yotzim ba'bik'ah ubahar, bursting out or coming out of the valleys and the mountains. Verse 8, Eretz Chitha u'Se'orah u'Refen u'The'enah u'Rimon Eretz Zet Shaimen u'Dvash, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey. Eretz asher lo b'miskenuth tochal ba. You know, I'm going to switch the camera back the other way. It's just too much to try to figure out if my face is in the frame. And okay. Eretz asher b'miskenut lo b'miskenut tochal ba. Lechem lo techasar. Kol ba. Eretz asher avoneha barzel umiha hareha tahatzov nehoshet. This is verse 9. So a land which you will not Eretz asher lo miskenut tochal ba, a land in which you will not eat in it in poverty. Lechem lo techasar, you will not lack any bread or any food. Kol ba, everything is in it. Eretz asher avanecha barzel, a land whose stones are iron. Meharecha tachatzov nechoshet, and from its mountains you shall chisel out. You shall harvest, chisel out. What's the word in English? I keep on forgetting. You know what I mean? Quarry, copper or bronze. Really copper, because what is bronze? So nechoshet can mean copper or bronze. However, bronze is made of 90% copper, 10% tin. Tin is not found in this area. So when it says here in the area of the land of Israel, so when it says here nechoshet, it means copper. So bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. Tin, the famous place for tin was Cyprus. No, not Cyprus. I can't remember now. There was a place nearby where tin was imported and it was famous for it. And it escapes me right now. It doesn't matter. Okay, let me drink again. 1 second, please. Whoa. It's good. Nothing like vodka in the morning. No, I'm joking. It's water. Okay. Wink, wink. No, it really is water. Okay. Right. Where were we? Verse 10. V'yachalta v'savata v'rachta et Yahweh Elohecha al ha'aretz tova asher natan lach. And you shall eat and be satisfied and bless Yahweh, your God, on or for the land, the good land which he's given you. So this is the key verse. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10. You shall eat and be satisfied, and you shall bless Yahweh, your God, for the good land that he's given you. So what does this verse mean? Well, the rabbis take this verse. I mean, we all know what it means, right? It's 100% clear. After you eat a meal, you're supposed to say Birkat Hamazon. You're supposed to say the blessing after the meal, right? Wrong. Okay? That we are so indoctrinated into the rabbinical way of thinking that we already, a priority, we already interpret, let me find a better place to sit. Hold on 1 second, please. We already interpret the verses meaning that. But that's not what the verse is saying at all. We have to understand that that Deuteronomy chapter 8 and much of Deuteronomy is meant to be understood poetically. It is a series of speeches, a series of 3 speeches by Moshe Rabbeinu, or as I like to call him, Moshe Qara'im, by Moshe ben Amram, Moshe the son of Amram. It is a series of speeches by Moshe. Maybe I'll look into the camera now. It is a series of speeches by Moshe. We'll just focus on that. It is a series of speeches by Moshe that are meant to inspire, encourage, place the fear of God, literally, into the Israelites, warn, okay? And much of it, although there are halachot, although there are laws, commandments in the book of Deuteronomy, some that are not mentioned anywhere else in the Torah, or some that are just expansions or not enhancements, clarifications or expansions of laws that are mentioned elsewhere in the Torah, that is not the main part of Deuteronomy. The main part of Deuteronomy is a series of 3 speeches by Moshe, as the Israelites are about to enter the land of Israel, standing in the plains of Moab, looking into the land of Israel, and Moses is he's basically giving them his almost, I won't say it's deathbed because he's still quite alive at this moment, but his final farewell speeches before he can no longer be guiding them, before the baton is passed to Joshua. Okay, so if we look at these verses, if we look at Deuteronomy 8, we see the whole thing is meant to be in that vein. Okay? I'm looking through it now from the beginning, and I don't see any halakha here at all. I don't see any commandments here at all. I'm looking starting in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 1. All I see is statements, encouragement, keep my commandments. This is what happened to you in the desert, right? So we see very clearly here that this is not, if it wasn't clear before, which it should be anyway clear from the context, then this verse 10 is not a commandment, okay? It is part of Moses' speech of encouragement, warning, admonition, inspiration, etc. And if we go back to verse 8, right? Let me translate it very quickly into the English. We'll start in verse 7. Because Yahweh your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of watercourses and springs and underground springs bursting out of valley and mountain, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, and a land of olive oil and honey, a land which you will not eat in poverty. You will not lack any food. Everything is in it. A land whose stones are of iron, and from its mountains you shall carve out copper, and you will eat, and you will be satisfied, and you will bless Yahweh your God for this good land that he has given you. You will eat, and you will be satisfied, and you will bless Yahweh your God for this good land which he has given you. So this is not a commandment. This is actually a prediction. This is actually Moses saying what will happen. You're going to come into this. Let me put the verses down for a second. You're going to come into this beautiful land, and look at this beautiful land, people. Look, I'm waiting for you all to come here. Come to Katzrin in the Golan Heights. Let's start our first World Alliance of Qara'im live community. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come. You will not regret it. Wherever you are in this world, you will not regret it. At any rate, it's not a commandment. It's a prediction. Bring it up again. Oops. Okay. Verse 9. Verse 10. You will eat and you will be satisfied and you will bless. It's saying this is what will happen. You'll come into this beautiful land, which is filled with all of its bounty. You're going to eat so much from this beautiful land. You're going to be satisfied after eating that. What are you going to do? You will bless Yahweh, your God, for the good land that he has given you. It's not a commandment. It's telling it people. It's saying what will happen. It's a prediction. You're going to enter into the land. You're going to eat of its bounty. One day after you have a full meal, you're going to be sitting under your vine and under your fig tree, and you're going to say, wow, Yahweh, I want to bless you. I truly want to bless you for what you've given me here. You've given me this beautiful land. Okay? To take that beautiful statement, that prediction of what will happen, and to turn it into a commandment where after every meal you now must say a prayer. You must, or else. Okay, or else on pain of not going to Olam Haba. I'm exaggerating a bit there, right? And not only that, you must say a prayer that's scripted, right? We were talking about prayer from the heart versus prayer by rote, right? Isaiah chapter 28, verse 13. These people approach me with their mouths and with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, and they serve me by the commandments learned of man by rote. Okay, that when you have to say a scripted prayer, which is usually done at 85 miles an hour because the prayer is so long and boring, especially after you've said it a million times in your life, that all you're doing is checking off a box. That's not prayer. That's not only is that not prayer. That's a disgrace. I'm sorry. That is an absolute disgrace. Okay, now I know the rabbinical Jews who do it are not, they probably deep down, a lot of them also feel that, but they're not doing it consciously as a disgrace. But that's I'm not blaming them. They're indoctrinated into the cult, but that's what it is. It's a disgrace to take this beautiful statement in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10, and to turn it into a scripted prayer, which is a long prayer actually, and you have to go through it, and because it's so long, you want to go through it quickly, so you go through it at 250 miles an hour, so you can get it done in 3 minutes instead of 10 minutes if you were to go through it, or 20 minutes if you would go through it at a normal speed. And this is what the rabbis have done with this statement with Deuteronomy 8, chapter 8, verse 10. Okay, it's a disgrace what they've done, but it's so typical of what they always do. They take these beautiful statements in the Tanakh and the Torah, and they turn them into legalistic halachot. That was exactly Jesus. And again, I'm not a Christian or Messianic in any way, shape, or form. I'm using him as an historical figure, and this is what I often bring up to the rabbis. That was exactly precisely Jesus's criticism of the Pharisees in Matthew chapter 21 and other places. Okay, that they're so legalistic. Well, that's what they've done here. They've taken this beautiful statement, this prediction that you're going to be sitting in this beautiful land and you're going to eat of its bounty, and you're just a blessing to Yahweh is just going to naturally flow out of your mouth because you're so thankful to him that he's given you this land and given you all this bounty. And they turn that into a dry halakha that after every meal you must say a prayer. And not only that, it can't even be a prayer from the heart. It has to be a scripted prayer. And because you want to get it done in a reasonable time, you have to go through it at 350 miles an hour. Okay. This is typical, so typical of what the rabbis always do with our beautiful Torah and our beautiful Tanakh, and what they've done here. The same with tefillin, right? The statement in Deuteronomy chapter 6 that it shall be for you a sign on your hands and frontlets, jewelry, remembrance between your eyes. That again is a beautiful statement. That means that the Torah will always be, figuratively speaking, clung to you. It will be clinging to you as the way that jewelry clings to your body. And yet they take that and they say, oh, we're going to make boxes based on a pagan amulet. And we're going to tell you that every single day, every single weekday, that they have to literally attach these boxes, tie these boxes to your body. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace what the Pharisees/rabbis have done to our beautiful Torah. Okay. So there's one other thing that I want to bring up. So that should summarize that. So let's summarize. Okay. Deuteronomy 8:10, which says, you shall eat and you shall be satisfied, and you shall bless, or you will eat, you will be satisfied, and you will bless Yahweh your God for the good land that he's given you, is not a commandment. It's a statement of fact. It's a prediction. This is what is going to happen. And as I sit here and I look over the Sea of Galilee here, and I see this beautiful land, and I see this land of bounty, and living in the Golan Heights, I see it every single day. It makes me want to, from the heart, just bless Yahweh. I want to do it right now, as a matter of fact, so I will do it. Yahweh, thank you so much for bringing me back to the land of Israel and planting me in the most beautiful, beautiful place, the most bountiful, beautiful place I can possibly imagine in the Golan Heights, in Katzrin. Please protect all of the people of Israel. Please protect all of the land of Israel from its enemies, and in particular, protect the people of the northern border, Yahweh. One of the reasons I came here was that I could call out in your name to you, with your name, Yahweh, to pray that you'll protect the beautiful communities and the beautiful people that live here in the north from the enemies of Israel. And yes, it is true that Israel is now sinning because we follow a distorted and bizarre form of Torah known as Pharisaic/rabbinical Judaism. But please, Yahweh, understand that so many people deep in their hearts know that it's wrong. They know that there's something more true and more authentic out there. And so please forgive them, because it is not their choice. They've been brainwashed into this way of thinking. They don't realize that Deuteronomy 10:8 is poetically speaking about a prediction. They don't realize that Deuteronomy chapter 6 is speaking figuratively about having the Torah bound to you as jewelry is bound to a person's body. They've been brainwashed by 2,000 years of this distorted, incorrect, bizarre, disgraceful form of Judaism. So please do not hold it against them. Protect them. Please, Yahweh, Father, our Father in heaven, protect them. I have to be careful when I call him my father, because sometimes when the Christians mean that, they're saying in contrast to the Son. No, I am not a Christian or Messianic in any way, shape, or form. I must repeat that again. Sorry, in the middle of the prayer, Yahweh. But at any rate, Yahweh, our Father in heaven, please protect the people of the north. That is what I came here for. This was my mission. This is why you brought me here. This is why I had to go through approximately 2 to 3 months of confusion and contemplation and prayer and meditation to find out where you wanted me to be, what you wanted my mission to be as I came back, or in returning to the land of Israel. And finally, you showed me that my mission was to be here in the north. You made it clear to me in many, many, many different ways, which I won't go into right now, that my mission was to be here in the north and to do my little part to maybe be one of the only people calling out to you by your name by your true name, not calling you Adonai and Hashem and Elohim and Elohim and whatever else, but calling it out to you by your true name to help please protect the land of Israel and to protect the people in the north of Israel. So this is what comes out of my heart when I sit here and look at the bounty of this good land that Yahweh has given me and has given us. I'd like to say one more thing. I'd like to make one more point, and then I'll kind of bring the video to a conclusion. And that is the idea of, so it says, you will eat and you will be satisfied and you will bless Yahweh your God for the good land he has given you. So a number of people raised a question on the World Alliance of Qara'im group, and this has been a question that's raised in general about the idea of blessing Yahweh. What does that mean to bless Yahweh? Why does Yahweh need our blessings, right? That's the party line. That's the typical party line. That it must mean something else, and that's why the rabbis will never say, in the formulation of their prayers that I bless or we bless Yahweh. They don't even call him Yahweh. I bless or we bless Adonai. They will say Baruch, Yahweh is blessed. Baruch atah Adonai, right? We all know that if we grew up Jewish. Blessed are you, Adonai. Because the rabbis say that you cannot bless Yahweh. He just is. You can't, how are we as human beings to bless Yahweh? So they changed the idea of blessing Yahweh as we see. It says explicitly in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10, that you will bless, uberachta, you will bless Yahweh. And the rabbis take that away and they say, no, we little insignificant, unimportant human beings cannot bless this great, perfect God who lives up in the heavens somewhere, quote unquote, figuratively speaking. And so they change it to Baruch atah Adonai, you are blessed. Okay, you are blessed just by your very essence, you are blessed. We cannot bless you. We are in no position to bless the creator of the universe. Do I agree with that? No. That is Greek thought. That is absolutely Greek thought. This Greek pagan conception of God, I won't say pagan, but this Greek conception of God that he is separated from the world and he's perfect and he lives far away and he's not concerned with the doings of us human beings. And so we as mortal and fallible human beings cannot bless the infallible, perfect, and far away separated God. Okay, this is where the rabbis get this from. They get it from Greek thinking. Explicitly, you can actually see the influence of, I don't have the writings in front of me, but of many of the Greek scholars talking about this kind of thing. Okay, but that's not what our Torah is. Not Greek philosophy. It's not Greek ideas. Greek and Roman ideas are foreign to us. And it says explicitly in Deuteronomy 8, verse 10, that you will eat and you will be satisfied and you will bless. We, little old you and me, little mortal human beings, we will bless the great and powerful Yahweh, the creator of heavens and earth. So what does this mean? Okay, it comes down to a basic conception or misconception, but we've spoken enough about the rabbi's misconception, a conception of what Yahweh is. How can we bless Yahweh? And why does Yahweh need our blessings? Well, let me start by saying, yes, he does need our blessings. He wants our blessings. He created us. See, the Tanakhic, the Torah/Tanakhic concept of Yahweh is not that he's infallible and far away. It's that he is, we can't say like a human being, but he has emotions, he has feelings. He wants connections with us human beings, with his children that he created. If he didn't want connections with us, why would he have created us? If he didn't need us, why would he have created us? Well, you can say he did it just purely as a gift to us, but that doesn't make any sense. Why would he even bother doing that if he didn't need us at all? Okay? The fact of the matter is that the Jewish conception of Yahweh is he is emotional. He's, I want to use these words carefully, but hamivin yavin, those who understand what I'm saying will understand. He's fallible. He changes his mind. He desires connections with other creatures, specifically with human beings, which is why he created us. And I'll talk about why us in particular. and he's lonely. I believe that Yahweh is very lonely. That's the main reason he created us. Why do parents have children? You could say parents have children just for the sake of the children, but that's not true. They are lonely. They want to have children. Those who have something to give need someone to give to. And that's why parents create children, so that they can have themselves fulfilled just as much as the children can. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? The parents need to be fulfilled by passing on their wisdom, their knowledge to their children, and the children need the parents for guidance and love and protection. Okay, so it's a symbiotic relationship, and that is exactly the analogy for why Yahweh created us. Without us, just as parents without children can be very lonely, which is why some of them go to such desperate lengths to have children when they can't have them, that it's the same. We can extrapolate that analogy to Yahweh and know that without creating us human beings, he was lonely. He had so much to give, but he didn't have anyone to give it to. Okay? So why us human beings in particular? Because we have free will. We're the only creatures in the universe that have the ability to either love him or not love him. We have the free will. We have the choice to do that. We have the ability to either go in his ways, follow in his footsteps, follow in his ways, or not follow in his ways. What does that mean? That means if we choose to follow in his ways, if we choose to love him, then it's real, because we're not forced to do it, because we have the free will to go either way. And in fact, one of the reasons, or the main reason, that there are so many, I don't like to use the word temptations, that's already a Christian word, but there are so many distractions. Yes, we'll use the word temptations. There's so many ways to go off the path in this world, is because Yahweh does not want to make it easy for us, because if he made it easy for us, then our going in his way, our loving him, it wouldn't be meaningful. That which is too easy is not meaningful. So he makes the path towards him difficult. He makes the path towards him the hard path, the difficult path. He makes rejecting all of the temptations of this world, the money, and I'm not saying, again, I don't mean one should live as a pauper, not at all. We saw in Deuteronomy 8, verse 10, that we will live not lo b'miskenut tochal, right? You will not eat in poverty. But the temptations of doing anything and everything to get money, of worshiping money, the temptations of honor and glory and power and oppression of other people, of sexual temptations, which may lead to things that are forbidden in the Torah. All of these things are kind of the easy way, right? They're the path of least resistance. And so in order to come close to Yahweh, you have to take the path of higher resistance. You have to take the more difficult path. It's the difference between walking down the street and climbing a mountain. Walking down the street might be nice, but what's more rewarding? Climbing the mountain. And climbing the mountain is difficult, but when you get to the top of the mountain, then you realize that without the pain and difficulty of the journey, you could not appreciate the reward of the top of the mountain. And that is the exact analogy for us getting close to Yahweh. Those who choose to come close to Yahweh, those who choose to follow in his ways, those who choose to love him, and those who choose to follow in his path, to reject evil and embrace good, to reject foreign ways and embrace his ways, they are very often, including myself, faced with many very, very difficult challenges. And so they have to prove themselves. We have to prove ourselves by deciding, are we going to face those challenges and come closer towards him, which ultimately is the most beautiful feeling and the most beautiful reward, or are we going to take the path of least resistance and go after the low-hanging fruit of money, fame, power, control over others, honor, glory? No, honor, glory, not the right words. Pride, all that stuff. So getting back to, that is why we can bless Yahweh, or getting back to why we can bless Yahweh, it has to do with the fact that he does need and he wants our blessings. He wants a relationship with us. He wants a real relationship with us. And that's why prayer from the heart is so important, because it's an expression of a true relationship with Yahweh, not a canned or scripted relationship with Yahweh that is unfortunately so prevalent in the Jewish world today. And he is lonely. He needs us as much as we need him, just as parents need their children as much as the children need their parents. And the only way he can have a real relationship with us is if he allows us to choose our own path, and then see if we'll choose our path to be close to him, to come back to him, or to stay far away from him. And so when he says we will bless him, he wants our blessings. He wants our love. He wants our connection. He wants a relationship with us. That is the Torah/Tanakh concept of Yahweh, of the true God, the true creator of heaven and earth. A God an Elohim who desires connections with his creatures. And yes, you can have connections with other creatures besides human beings, and I'll sum up here soon. It's been over an hour. You can have connections with animals, and I have some wonderful pets that I have, words cannot express how much I love those little creatures. They're just amazing little creatures. But it's different to have a connection with an animal than it is with a human being, because only a human being has the self-awareness to be able to decide whether they're going to love you or not love you, whether they're going to come close to you or not come close to you. So that only then does it become meaningless. Okay, with a cat or a dog, if you give them food, they're going to love you. And in fact, not only will your own cats love you, I have 2 cats that I brought with me from Portugal, but all the neighborhood cats, every last one of them, when they smell the food, will come and they will love you. Okay. Any rate, so we can, and we are told by Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10, that we will and should bless Yahweh. Yahweh wants our blessings. He wants us to bless him. He needs it. As much as we need him, he needs us. And he loves our blessings just as he loves in the days when we used to bring meat sacrifices, which, by the way, I do not think will be reinstated in the future. That's another story. Just as in those days, his feelings towards us were aroused by the sweet-smelling scent of our meat sacrifices. So his feelings towards us are aroused when we praise him, when we bless him, when we tell him that we love him, when we thank him for the good land which he has given us. So do not believe the Greek/rabbinical idea that we cannot bless Yahweh, that he is just somehow some faraway, perfect entity that just is blessed. And so they actually distort what is written in the Torah. They change that we will bless to Baruch, Uberachta to Baruch. No, we can and we must and we should bless him. So I bless you, Yahweh. I bless you for all that you've given me, and I bless you for all that you've given your people Israel, and I bless all that you've given to this world, all the beautiful things you've created in the heavens, on the earth, and in the sea. And I thank you so much for this life that you've given me. From the ancient ruins of the city of Bethsaida, this is Chacham Melech Ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im, signing off. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will do more of them. Shalom. How do I end the stream? Okay, we might be here longer because I don't know how to end the stream. I think I do this. Are you sure you want to stop streaming?